No, sir, I don't like it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to No Sir Pod. I am your host, Carmen Morales, where we talk about shit we don't like with people we adore. Today is no exception. I'm joined with the incomparable Trae Crowder. Hi.
Hello, sweetie. Good to see you.
Hi, Sugar
Looking
Plum.
precious as always. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you are here. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
There's been so many times we've had conversations digitally. I feel like over the last few years, it is nice to know you're still a real person, not a hologram.
Nope, not yet. Have not been digitized yet. Would you upload yourself to like upload if it was possible, upload your consciousness to like a utopian digital paradise? Well, go ahead.
Like in a clone in another body, or
No.
you mean like you talking about this whole
The Matrix.
Matrix?
But it's like, did you ever watch Black Mirror?
Some of it.
There was an episode, I think, in the first season of Black Mirror where it's like two lesbians on a beach.
Mm-hmm.
But that beach was fake. They really were like, they had gotten old and died or something, but it's the future, so their consciousness was uploaded and they lived eternally youthful in a digital paradise and lesbian love with each other.
So you're talking about like manufactured heaven as opposed to like believing in that being already, because isn't that that's the whole catch for heaven, right? Is you go there and it's like whatever,
That
a
is
beautiful.
I don't. So yes, so I do not believe that.
Right. But that's the sales pitch for Christianity is heaven for the most part. So
correct.
So now,
but I always
there's
thought Christian heaven didn't even sound that great to me.
Sure.
If you have to be all Christian while you're up there the whole time, it doesn't seem very
right. You're just out there like it's still yelling that God doesn't like Jews or gays.
Doing Bible study and fucking protesting.
You don't want to work, No, but
would you do it?
Because it would be a guarantee. I mean, if it's that, like, if it's after I die, sure, I wouldn't want to like miss this because I don't. I'm not so I think when I die, that's the end. So
right.
I would want to live all of this out. But if it was like, you're going to die, you're dying.
That is what I meant. You're dying. However old you are, if you get terminal something or you're dying of old age, it's like you're almost done with regular life, but we can take your consciousness. So like the idea would be it's still you. Like you go to sleep for the procedure, you wake up and you're in your beach house forever. Like and it's you're young again. But none of it's real. You're living inside a computer program. Like you put yourself in the Matrix. So like, would you do that?
Here's the other, like, is it fucking up people that are still here on, like, how much does it take? Like, is it only for rich people or poor people? Like, you'd have to give me more time. But if I could afford it.
I think it would definitely be only for rich people if they ever do it. No way they're going to let poor people have that shit. But I'm just saying hypothetically.
Hypothetically, sure. I mean, it's just basically a screensaver for your thing. But I have a rabid ADHD brain. So, like, I would get bored, I think.
But I think you could reprogram. You could be like, I'm tired of the beach thing. I'm going to live in a mountain cabin for a few years now. And you just like, and then now you do. And also the other question is like, is it a big Matrix program where it's like, it's a whole facility? Like there are other people's consciousness in there, not like NPCs. You could either choose to be alone, but I don't think anybody want to be alone for eternity. You could also have
some people do.
Yeah. But you could also have fake people in there, like computer program NPCs or whatever. But then maybe also there could be like communities, digital communities where it's other people who have done this and you all live together and you're all shredded 24. You can't have a hangover. You can't get sick.
I know, but you could still not like people. I wouldn't want to spend eternity with somebody I didn't like. So you'd have to like pick.
Yeah, what community you want to go to.
And do people have the ability to change, or do you have the ability to control all that?
Right.
There's a lot of deets in here.
There are, and I always thought, because I like sci-fi and shit. And I was always
So you're a yes, I'm guessing.
I mean, I always was a hard yes. In fact, I always was like, I so badly hope that I live long enough and also make enough money because it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
For that to be an option eventually. That's how I felt for a long time. But I've only recently been coming around on that because we see what all these tech bros are like. And it's like the people who will be actually in charge of these massive technological advances are awful.
Yeah.
And you can't trust them, like the way they misuse people's data and all that shit. So it's like that'd be putting a lot of trust into whatever startup that is that offers
not only that
service.
but then over time they're going to cut corners and be cheap about it. So I mean, if it's maybe if another country does it, like if
it's like what if they
like Ferrari does it, sure,
what if
because they care about the quality of the product.
Okay, but what if you're like what if you're in it again, it's supposed to be like forever. What if you've been in there for 100 years or something, but then that company goes bankrupt and it's like they just kind of leave your server in a room somewhere or something. So then then everything goes white. Your beach goes away and it's a white void, but you're still in there and you can't get out and you're there for like ever.
So then your heaven turns to hell. I mean, I think you just wrote a movie. Your heaven turns to hell.
Well, it's a Black Mirror episode is what it is. That's what they get into.
Is that what happens?
Not in that one. That's one of the only like sweet episodes of Black Mirror they ever did was the lesbian love story. That one has like a happy ending, but many other episodes have the idea of like your consciousness getting screwed over forever, basically, or like using it. And they've in real life pitched this recently. There's an episode about like, we'll make prison a thing where like when somebody gets, sentenced to prison.
DJ was talking about this. You could do 2 years in the mental gulag or you can do 10 years.
And I think the idea being like in the physical reality, it's whatever, a day or it's 5 minutes or whatever, but you experience a 20-year prison stint or 5 or 10 or whatever it is in your mind. So you live all that, but we don't have to dedicate real resources to it. And they want to do this in real life, but there was an episode of Black Mirror about it before that, about the idea of using that and how hellish it would be, about how like, a bad actor could adjust the settings and now you're in there for 1,000 years, 1,500 years, 2,500 years, whatever, as far as you perceive it, and it's just, I mean, shit's crazy to think about. I don't even know what made me bring that up now, but
I think
I said I wasn't a hologram. I was still a real person.
That was my fault.
That's what made me think of that. Yeah.
Well, I always go back to the old Bill Burr bit. Like, you don't get hair plugs when they first are invented. Sure. They're not going to be done well. So I don't know that this technology, even if somebody who created it cared and genuinely wasn't trying to like, did it right, so to speak, I don't think it would be where it would need to be before I'm dead.
Yeah, you're probably right. We're probably too far away from it. But people say these futurologists and shit, they'll say like, oh, the first person who's going to live to be 200 years old is already alive. Like that meaning we'll get there in one lifetime. So and I'm like, yeah. And I know, I don't just believe that. I know who it is.
Oh, okay.
It's Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate.
That's no way, dude.
Yes, absolutely.
No way.
Because he's the worst person alive, and that's how that works. The worst people never die. Like they live forever.
Well, they don't die young enough, is what it is.
Yeah,
they die. They just don't die young enough. It's but then you still have like those blue areas of people living to over 100 and shit like that. Like I feel like it would be those. It's definitely not going to be an American. It's not going to be a person that's eating plastic every day.
What they mean when they say that is like the technology to reverse aging or extend life by that much, like. It's coming in our life, like before we die, it will be here. Meaning, so like, and again, it'll be for rich people only, and who knows how it'll actually work.
Right.
But like they act like that will be a thing, like in our lifetimes, that you'll be able to, I don't know if it'll be a pill or a surgical procedure or an injection or what, but they'll have things that, extend the lifetime of a human, like by a lot.
I don't know. I oddly enough, I talked about this a lot with my mom when we were like floating in the ocean one time. I was doing a gig in the Bahamas and she came with me and we talked about mortality. And I feel like part of what makes this precious is that it will end.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. I think I'm just going to do that.
I respect that. I've just found that I've been growing increasingly terrified by death.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know if this was our, the podcast you wanted to do. But yeah.
It's okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
So death, you don't like death? Interesting.
And I never used to
think about it.
It wasn't even I didn't think about it. It's like, whatever. Fuck, people die is what happens. But like Dude, not anymore. And it really was. I think it was one night, literally one night, I got a little too high. I don't even fuck with weed anymore, by the way, because I kept having experiences like this. But this was one of the earlier ones. Like I got a little too high one night. I'm laying in bed and I read something on fucking Reddit or whatever that sends me down this rabbit hole of thinking about nothingness. Just the concept of nothingness. Because that's what people always used to say. Atheists and people like that always used to say. It's like, well, I'm dead. It's nothing. I was nothing for thousands of years beforehand. It didn't bother me. I'll just be nothing again. And I was always down with that. But that night, lying there thinking about it, and I was like, fucking, what is that? What is nothingness? What is just the absence of existence or perception, whatever? And it just really, really bothered me. And ever since then, even after I've sobered up, I've just been freaked out by it. About because my belief is that when I die, the fucking lights just go out.
Yeah.
But I still do believe that, but I'm terrified of it.
I think that's why a lot of people turn to God when they get older, because of the fear of death starts becoming more. I mean, you also have a family and stuff like that. So I think you have to think about mortality maybe more than I do, because you have people to keep alive. It becomes your entire way of thinking is shifted. And
that's 100% true. Yeah.
So I think that has something to do with it. But I also am not a dude. I'm never thinking about legacy or any of that shit either. Like none of that stuff really matters to me. For me, it's what I can get out of what I'm trying to wring as much as I can out of this right now until it's not.
Well, that's good. That's the right way to be. But you said
I don't know if it's right because we don't know what's going to happen. So that's the whole.
You said that's why people turn to God as they get older. I think that's why I'm trying to turn to like technology.
Come on, technology.
Seriously, I'm like, technology and science, fucking bail me out, please. Like,
Papa's scared. Help me fill this hole. I'm terrified.
Speed it up. Let's get to it. That's what I've been hoping for. But I guess that's one of the things that I really hate, actually, as far as the podcast goes, like, is the way all that is turning out to be, all this stuff that I always kind of like really look forward to and dreamed about as a kid, like sci-fi shit,
technology was it was hope.
It was supposed to be utopia stuff. It's supposed to improve everyone's lives. And now that like we're living in the fucking future and it's all here, the actual version of it that we have and the real people who run it all, it just all sucks so much. Like I just never imagined that these huge technological advances would be bad for everybody. Like when I was a it was always going to be great. It's like, can you imagine one day when we can do all this stuff? And it's like, a lot of it is here and happening and it's all bad. And I hate that. It's a real bummer, you know?
Well, I guess that's always the part of the fiction part of it that always makes it way cooler than the practical use.
Well, the other thing that's dumb about that is like, as a science fiction fan, we were just talking about Black Mirror. Almost all of it is about how bad shit inevitably gets. Like almost all of it is like the dangers of these ideas or these possibilities or whatever. You know, it's not, because it would be boring if it's all like, everything's just fucking great all the time, you know, and all these stories and movies and shows, like things go bad.
But the thing, my issue with it is it was always humans that ruined everything, but really it's been the technology that has ruined all of this.
And there's people too.
I mean, obviously, but they're the ones in control of it. But I'm saying like, it's a very guns don't shoot people shoot people, but we can't shoot people without the guns conversation, you know? There is it's a two-part where it's like, if we never had the technology, we couldn't be having our foot so hardcore on the throttle to ending everything, you know? And I also don't think there wasn't any preparation for it either. And that's what always talking about, like how much energy and stuff like that, all the AI costs and stuff like that. And it's also not being utilized for us. That's why, like in sci-fi, it was like they were thinking about people, and nobody is thinking about people as far as any kind of development of technology. If that was the case, we would have AI be doing our taxes and doing all the shit that we don't want to do.
Exactly.
And as opposed to taking away the joys of creativity.
Exactly. Yeah, right. No, I know. That's a great example. It's like AI is a great example. It's like, it was supposed to arrive and
that's what
do,
sold people
and
on
do
it.
all the things that suck that no one wants to do. But instead, it's like doing all the cool shit.
Yes.
It's like, no, you don't.
I want to draw hands with a lot of fingers. I want to do that.
Yeah,
me.
Right. Yes.
And we could be, if that was the case, we should be able to have AI do all of the production bullshit side of us, all this paperwork that nobody wants to do. And then you could have that money that you save with AI. All of that shit should be going to practical effects. All this, we don't have to digitize everything. We could have all the real looking shit because now there's more time and more money being able to be thrown into the creative part of it.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing is we should have a country of fucking artists with this technology, but that's not what's happening.
That's exactly
They're trying to take that part away.
Because it was supposed to be like AI coupled with, like UBI or that type of thing would like free people up to, pursue
it was
whatever.
Supposed to be the 1950s all over again. All of this innovation to make everything more convenient for you.
Yeah,
and this isn't doing that. Sure, will it take notes in your meeting for you? Sure. Does it make a couple of things in a corporate setting more convenient? Sure. But in the grand scheme of things, now, if you're not actually utilizing the tool, the kids aren't being like, there's kids that are in school that are like, I feel like it's dangerous. When children know that it's a danger because now they think that they're not being able, the opportunity for them to think critically is being taken away from them because they're basically being handed like a heroin button.
Yeah.
Giving a child a heroin button. You could force yourself to create critically and creatively the traditional way, or we just gave you this tool that will do all of the work for you. And so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's hard to put that on a fucking child's brain, dude.
It is. I don't know what's going on with like the kids and stuff because I read all this shit about how like teachers and everybody are real worried. I mean, I do know part of it. We're like dismantling education in this country, but teachers and shit about them being worried that like Gen Alpha, like kids right now, that they like can't fucking read, that they're like way behind any preceding generation. And a lot of them are like, well, COVID was a big part of that. They were very formative years for these kids, and especially in fundamental things like reading, and that all got fucked up. There's nothing we can do about that, but they're all so far behind. And I don't mean this, I don't think I have shit to do. I don't feel like I've done anything special at all, but like my two sons, they're 12 and 13, and it's like, I don't know, I think they're as smarter than I was, and like, and I don't, and when I go to their school, which is a public school out here in the Valley, and like it seems better than the school I went to.
Sure.
Like the stuff they have,
my
the
school
stuff
is
they
all
learn.
fucking portable. So yeah.
Right. So I'm saying, so it's like, I don't know what to think. I think it just varies wildly depending on, again, I'm in like, a nice suburb in the San Fernando Valley, and it's a public school. So that's like a different situation. So maybe it's just in some places it's real bad and others it's, not, I don't know, but it's, all where, it all can make you, feel really pessimistic about just the future and stuff. Cause I used to always think like, I always thought every like successive generation is like better, smarter, more progressive, more advanced, more everything than the one before it. That's just how humankind works.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know that I believe any of that shit anymore, necessarily. Like, this is the first time I've thought we're like, could be backsliding.
Well, I think that
every old person always thinks that the younger generations like kind of suck though.
Sure.
So like,
because it's always change, and change is scary,
right. So
especially as you get older.
Maybe that's just that I'm getting older and that's all that's happening there.
Well, a silly example of that would be like, older people get all upset over social constructs and stuff like that, like the pronouns and all the other shit, and then like the kids immediately accepted it. This is just how it is, how it's always been. It's just like that. But in like, so I don't like in that regard, I definitely think that they're more comfortable, which you have to be with because of technology. You would have to be more comfortable with change quicker. And I feel like there is a disconnect with older because they're working on old hardware, old software, not being able to update as fast, et cetera, et cetera. But I do think that The only problem, though, is I don't think, like, when they were making cartoons in the 80s and shit like that, they weren't going, oh, we need to use high contrast because it'll keep a child's attention more often and da-da-da. They were just trying to go, we should teach them that this is bad and this is good. Nobody's thinking about, like, they're calculating attention span times in lab testing rooms. So then you have, like, what's the name of that fucking show? The Kukui or well, you know what? There's
Coco Melon.
Yes, where it's causing behavioral problems in children because they're getting zapped with like fucking dopamine that they're not being able to generate it on their own.
Yeah.
So then they're throwing tantrums and acting like fucking psychos because you took their heroin away from them.
Right.
So I think when you're talking about like contextually, I think then people weren't thinking about that. They wasn't being manipulative. We were just making shit to try to educate people with concepts. Where now it's like, I just want these babies to stare at the screen as long as fucking possible.
Yeah, in terms of like shows and things made for entertainment or edutainment or any of that type of stuff, I think that you're probably right. But I do know that in terms of like marketing, like selling people on stuff, making people want or think a thing, I think that, or PR, all that type of shit, I think is like, I'm pretty sure it's a relatively recent phenomenon, meaning like within the past 100 years or so. Like there was a big revolution with all that type of thing, which led to all the consumerism in the, in the 80s and beyond and stuff, where people just lived to like buy shit and all that stuff. And it's all kind of spiraled from there, I think. Because then you get into like propaganda and making people believe things, like the product is a belief system or whatever that you're trying to sell a person on, all that type of shit. So
that's the part of it that's, I guess, super frustrating for me, is because I lived through those eras. It's very frustrating for me when people don't see those things for what they are. Like it's like when people like don't realize that advertisements are turned to 200 volume versus the regular programming, or the fact that people are basically using advertising tactics from the fucking 80s to sell you on something now. Like you should know by now that you should have already seen how the sausage has been made by now, I feel like. If you're at the same age as me, I feel like they're like, so when people don't pick up on that, when they don't pick up that they're being lied to or anything like that, when they're not clearly showing, like we've had so much data to show you what all of these how these tricks are done for you to be easily influenced by them. That's why my algorithm doesn't know how to advertise to me. Like it doesn't know what I am. It doesn't know what I am. It doesn't know like how to sell to me, because I don't engage with it the way that I would be, because I know all the tricks.
Yeah. Do you think the phones, I think we all know, if you get on like, if you're on Facebook or something and you search for a thing or you share a certain thing or you look at a certain page, that will change the ads Facebook shows you, and everybody knows that's how that works based on your interest or whatever.
I'm saying, like, some people don't know that. They think it's magic.
True. Right. Yeah. So, well, speaking of which, do you think that our phones just like are listening to us or reading your text messages or whatever to that end all the time? Like even outside of like, I'm not saying you go on Facebook and you share some stuff so their algorithm gets a beat on you. I'm saying you text your friends about a thing, or even sometimes you talking and then you see an ad about a thing. Like, do you think they're like actively listening all the time?
That's a setting that you can turn off. My phone doesn't do that, but I turn all of that shit off. My phone doesn't listen to me. I don't use the Siri. I don't use any of that shit because I don't want you to be listening to me. I like my privacy to a detriment of probably my career, etc. I like living my life. I like secrets. I like living my life without people knowing everything about me. I don't. There's a level of self-exploitiveness that I'm not willing to do it to a detriment to my own career. I don't care. Yeah. I would rather die with a smile on my face than one that was plastic surgeoned on, so to speak.
No, I heard that. Yeah, but it's like one time, like I knew what was happening, but it still did work on me, because one time me and Drew and DJ were all like texting about something. I think DJ brought up, we started doing this, like, we're doing a bit about like birds not being real. And this is all 100% tech, like in my my text message app or whatever, just between the three of us, we're like joking about birds not being real.
Mm-hmm.
I get on Reddit or whatever, a little bit later that day, half an hour later or something. And the very first ad I see is for a t-shirt that says birds aren't real on it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But I've seen that ad without talking about it.
Okay, so that was just completely a coincidence?
I think it could be coincidence. I think sometimes...
It was literally the very first one that I got shown after talking to them about that. And I bought that t-shirt and had it sent to Drew's address because I thought that would be funny. Like without telling him anything. Like one day a package just shows up that has a shirt and it says birds aren't real or whatever.
Like the coalition for
like heard you be
automated
interested.
aviaries shows up and sends it. We know you've been talking about us.
Yeah, exactly. And it did kind of freak him out, but so it was all right. But
but also you fed into it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I know I did.
So that's the other thing too, is whenever I see that, but I'm also just suspicious. I'm a suspicious person. I was raised by a narcissist. I always think something's a scam. So, because I'm paranoid that I'm like, no, I see what you're doing. I don't like it. Like there's, the algorithm did figure out I was a woman because they're always like, hey girl, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? I'm your friend. And I'm like, no, bitch, you're selling shirts.
Yeah.
Stop calling me your friend. Like that's the other side of it where they're trying to humanize advertising. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Stop it. We're not friends. There is no soul here for me to connect with. No interest.
I got a pet peeve for you.
Yeah, let's do it.
On this front, I don't play a lot of like I play video games with my sons and stuff, PlayStation, Xbox.
Okay, what do you guys play? You gotta tell me because I'm a video game person.
Right now we're playing a game called For the King 2.
Mm-hmm.
It's a turn-based RPG tabletop thing. So it's like you got like it's kind of like sort of D&D. It's not a D&D based game, but
this reminds me of like Final Fantasy Tactics, where it's basically like chess, but you have to wait your turn.
You move around a board, you pick an attack on your turn, you do all this stuff, but we're all in a party together, like on a quest. So that Deep Rock Galactic, you know that game, the dwarves mining in space.
Okay,
it's pretty rad.
Sounds like an accurate portrayal of the future.
Yeah. Risk of Rain 2. That's a roguelite shooter that we played. We kind of stopped because we finally beat it. But and then they, on their own, they love fucking like Terraria, shit like that. And it was, they had a big Minecraft.
These are some nerdy ass games.
Yeah, as opposed to what? Like, what were you expecting?
No,
like
I didn't have an expectation.
Madden or Fortnite and that type of thing.
I guess for Fortnite, Minecraft is one that a lot of kids. The Roblox is a lot.
They like both of those. I think they've kind of grown out of both of those a little bit because they're 12 and 13. But like my wife plays Fortnite and I'll play that with her. And every now and then they'll play with us, but they're not super into it.
They're like, stop, guys! It's so old.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, the pet peeve though is, I do have a phone obviously, and I don't play a lot of games on my phone, but every now and then I'll check them out. And a huge pet peeve of mine, and it's rampant, is these mobile games that like completely deliberately misrepresent what the game is entirely. Oh, yeah. Like you could watch like a trailer for it and it shows like, it's like they go through the trouble of rendering this gameplay that they know will appeal to people, but that ain't what the game is. And in my head, I'm like, just make that the game.
Well, it's gotten so bad that some of them have done that.
Right.
They're like, hey, have you ever played
the actual
this
thing.
Game is have you played a game and it's not the thing when you get it?
Right.
Well, now we made that game.
But I just don't.
And it's just like, wow, how bad are things that you have to fucking
I just don't get why. It's just weird to me because it's like I said, it's like, if you know that this would make people want to play a game and not what your game is, and you can make a little clip of it, like, why didn't you just do that? Why didn't you just do the thing that people will like instead of tricking them into getting a thing they're not going to like or whatever?
Because then they're just going to delete it immediately.
Right. And I just don't, I don't know. It confounds me. The whole mobile ads, dude, are wild. Like, I don't know where those are coming from, like, are there little like sweatshops for mobile ads or something, or people doing these?
Well, for me, this goes back to what I was talking about, is how archaic we're doing bait and switch now. What is this, fucking 1950?
Yeah.
Whoa, we're gonna advertise this and then you're gonna get something entirely different. Like, dude, there's no a way to make your product never sell.
Right. And in the game world, also pet peeves, a lot of people share, fucking microtransactions and pay to win all that stuff. I hate all that shit. I refuse to engage with it. If I ever end up with an app on my phone that I realize is like, you run out of lives real quick, but you can pay to buy more lives and keep going or whatever. Like, I refuse to do that.
Same.
I'm like, I'll just be
dead.
Won't
play it. Yeah, I just won't play it.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. I'm immediately that goes back to it's a matter of principle. Nope. I'll just you're not gonna get any fucking money out of me, especially because this is the way you asked me for money. I've given hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to people developing games because I want that to get made, or want a comic book to get made. You'll get my money in a GoFundMe for you to start the thing, but I know, you know what? At the end of the day, it's going to be the fucking thing that you said it was. I would more gladly give them the money than give than me to play. Fuck you. It's rude. It's disrespectful, and you're not getting my money disrespectfully.
Have you ever been like ripped off or disappointed though by like a Kickstarter type thing or a GoFundMe type thing?
I've had stuff not get made, but you get your money back.
They return it. Yeah, no. One time, my wife made fun of me so much for this because she was like, "Why did you think that was going to be anything? It's so clearly stupid." And I was like, "Okay, fine." This is back when I was going to Bonnaroo every year, and this is like so this is like 2011, 2010, 11, long time ago. I feel like it was like Bluetooth speakers and stuff, like, which are everywhere now, but they didn't really exist at the time. I think people were still using iPods, like iPod minis and stuff like that. And there was a Kickstarter type thing I remember the name of it was called Timbo Trunks. And they were these like rubber horn shaped thing, like cones that you attached
to your phone, and it would amplify.
Not your phone, to the earbuds, like the headphones.
That's right.
You plug the headphones into your iPod or whatever, and you attach these cones to your earbuds, and it turns them into speakers, right? And I paid the Kickstarter to get those, and they showed up, and I was so excited because anyway, I was wanting to take these to Bonnaroo to have my tent and stuff. That's what the Bonnaroo part has to do with it. And I was so excited, and I pull them out and hook it up and set it down, and I turn it on, and it's like, I mean, when I tell you it made literally zero difference, it didn't do anything. And the most anticlimactic shit of all time. And then my wife just starts cracking up because she's just like, "Oh yeah, I can't believe that didn't work." And we had a bulldog at the time, and he really liked. I just immediately threw them to him, and like I said, they were rubber, and they made good dog chew toys. Which was the review I gave. Like, I went back and gave a review of it on there, which was one of the only times I've ever done that. But I was so pissed about it. I was like, these are some of the best dog chew toys I've ever gotten. My bulldog absolutely loves them.
But also, rubber isn't an amplifying material, so that already doesn't make a lot of sense. No, I think the worst one is I paid a bunch of money to get a comic book made, but again, it just didn't happen. So I was just sad. Yeah. Because I wanted it to happen.
It is sad to be sad.
But yeah, no, I don't think I've put anything into it where I got it. I'm too suspicious. Yeah. Like, what's the angle here? What's this scam here?
So you told me to think about some things I have. So do we go down a list?
Sure,
or do you want to?
Sure. Throw it out there.
I think the number one, overarching pet peeve of my entire life, and it's going to be one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, nobody likes that, but it's like, I feel like I'm like pathological about it. Is like when I know, and I mean when I know for absolute fact, 100% certainty that I am right about a thing, and someone tells me that I am not,
right?
It drives me fucking insane. And I don't mean like an opinion I have, like a political opinion or something like that. I'm talking about like a matter of fact that I'm certain. I'm also not the type of person, I won't tell you, if I tell you that I'm certain, then I am fucking certain. Like I won't say, if I'm like, wishy-washy on it, I'm not going to dig my heels in. So if I say that I know, then I do know. And whenever I'm doing that and then someone ain't having it, like the example I thought of, I think this happened fucking 12 years ago, and I think about it all the time.
That's how you know you're pathological
and get mad about it all over again. We all lived in Knoxville, me and Corey and Drew and DJ and some other people.
Mm-hmm.
The only person involved in this story was Corey, who was like fucked up on pills at the time. So he really didn't have nothing to do with it. But we all got together to make these real shitty sketches. Like they did not turn out well. We later buried them forever because it was bad. But at the time we were trying to do a thing. And I had wrote this sketch about various like gods hanging out around. I think they were playing cards or something. So it's like Zeus was there, Jesus was there. I think maybe Buddha was there. I did not have the balls to do Allah or Muhammad. He was left out. And then also Corey was Xenu, the Scientology person.
Right. I was just thinking a funny way you could do it is just like you have some like a figure completely blurred out. You know how like they would blur out genitals.
Yeah.
It would just you would never see who they were.
Yeah.
But that would be a way you could do it with like a
that's a good idea. So I had one or two
sketch from 12 years ago.
Yeah, workshop that.
Yeah, let's workshop it.
Yeah, right. One of the lines in it, Zeus was like a dude bro, right? And he, at one point, he says he's like making fun of Jesus, and he says something like, "Whatever you say, Josh," right? And I'm pretty sure it was just that one line. And two of the other guys, the camera guy and another guy in the sketch with me, are both like Christians and go to church and they love the Lord and stuff. And they're like, "Hey, what's that about, by the way? Like, why does he call him Josh there?" And I was like, well, actually, Jesus's name, like his actual name was Yeshua, which is actually more accurately translated as Joshua. So really his name was Joshua, but Jesus is like the Greek version of that, became the name Jesus Christ.
So over translation from translation, Jesus
I was like,
stuck.
but his name was Yeshua, which translates to Joshua, so he calls him Josh. So here's the thing. As a joke in a script, fine. No one's going to fucking get that. We could take that out, whatever. But that is not my point.
Yeah, it's a 40%.
I told them that.
And they're like, that's not true.
These Christians were like, no, it isn't. And I was like, no, it is though. And they were like, no. It was like, I've been going to church my whole life. Jesus's name is Jesus Christ. It's like, his name is not Josh or Joshua. And I was like, but it is. It's also Jesus. But I'm explaining to you. And these two fucking lifelong Christians were just like, no, where did you even hear that? Where did you get that? That's crazy. And like, and I'm getting mad about it now.
I can see it.
Made me so fucking mad. Because again, it's like I want people to know. And again, I know it's like, oh, you'd think no one will argue something that they don't think they're right about. But that isn't true. We all know people do. Fucking Drew. I love Drew, but like Drew will, for the fun of it, he'll like really get into an argument that he only kind of half thinks or believes.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So like people do that shit, but I'm saying I'm not one of them.
But I think those boys were not doing what Drew's doing.
No, they're not. They're just
genuinely
wrong.
believe it.
I know, it's like I want to impart to other people. It's like, you don't understand, because this is me. You should just take my word for it.
Yeah.
But I know people don't get that. Because you looked it up.
That was the whole thing, is like, I mean, I think it was like, honestly, I think it was an intro to theater where they talked about the beginning of theater, and how it was like almost eradicated because of when Constantine was going around and all this other shit. And we ended up having a huge conversation about the shift in like where the message of Christ started circulating, and how these stories ended up getting, a lot of things getting shifted in translation and stuff like that, and depending on who was also in charge at the time.
Right.
So there's a difference between like what we have the data on to go by versus what you're supposed to believe. And I think that a lot of times
that's true.
There's a difference between like, because I also always thought, and this is my take on it, and but I always just thought the Bible was like Beowulf. I just thought it was an epic full of stories, that there's plenty of good lessons in it, but it was never to be taken literally. It's so wild that it would be the book that is taken when there's so many other religious texts that exist, that have been influenced by a higher power, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
To be like, no, there's no possible way. It's like, where did you, according to your pastor?
Yeah, but I mean, but that's how, I mean, I know because I've known these people my whole life. I mean, that is how that works. You know, it's like, yes, according to my pastor, like they're taught a thing and they're like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like,
I
they
think
just
what that
believe
really comes down to psychologically is they would believe you would lie to them before their pastor would lie to them.
I guess,
and
so,
that is
but,
definitely not the
yeah,
case.
But it's also like another aspect of this is like, if a person like insults me or rags on me or whatever, and it's like true or like true enough, you know, like if you call me like if there's like shitty YouTube comments or whatever, call me like a fucking pandering dipshit libtard queer or whatever, I'm like, all right, you got me.
Yeah.
Doesn't really bother me. But anytime somebody says some shit that just ain't the case or isn't true, when someone's like, that's clearly a fake accent, I know for sure he's faking that accent, or like, this guy isn't really from Tennessee, or like he's a fucking, you know, that type, or like sometimes trolls will say shit like, I knew this guy growing up, he was like, his dad's in the Klan, he's crazy racist, whatever, shit that is not accurate.
Yeah.
That stuff I can't abide. Like, you could say the worst things about me, that's like, if you're you know, if you're spot on with it, or if you're like, or if there's a basis for it, rolls right off my back. But if it's completely fabricated or inaccurate, it eats me alive. I can't stand it. It's like, I got a thick skin for, you know, fair criticisms or insults, but made up shit that isn't true. It's another version of that same thing. And it's like, well, that's I don't know that anything makes me madder in my life than that. That whole thing that I have going on.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually an opposite take, because I think a lot of times people get, when there is a little truth to it, it's easier for them to be upset because
they know that it's
their character is being
no,
questioned.
You're right. No, I'm.
But if
I'm
somebody's just like, you
that.
you used to fuck the Mothman, I know this, and making it like
that
something
doesn't bother them.
Yes,
because they know it isn't true.
It's so outlandish.
No, you're right. That is the standard way to be. But I'm like the exact opposite for whatever reason. Like, I just can't. I don't know. I can't handle that stuff.
Yeah. You're like, you don't think I would set down this fucking accent if I could?
Right. Yeah.
Considering the things I'm talking about with
100%.
the stigma that's been fucking projected onto it. Yeah. That's wild. Yep.
Give
me something else. What else don't you know?
Let's see, man. I knew I should have wrote these down. I had a list of them. We've talked about a couple of them. Another one is like when people just, people or organizations just like do shit because that's just how they do it, even when it doesn't make any sense or isn't necessary. Like, that's just how we've always done it. Like, I was thinking about this because
this is the refusal to change or evolve or any of that.
Right. Well, so for example, you know, obviously, like, a lot of people have been talking about SNL a lot recently because they had their 50th anniversary and all these documentaries and stuff are coming out. And I've always thought about SNL ever since I learned how it worked. Like, of course, SNL's the stuff of legend. It's an institution and all that, and that's all true. But I think that a lot of the way that they operate is asinine and completely unnecessary. Like, they just do it because they've always done it. Meaning, like, they have a very stringent process that they stick to every single week. And part of it is you come in on Tuesday and you stay there all night long. Writing all night long, and then the table read is Wednesday and whatever else. But it's like, you don't have to do that. They started doing that because everybody was on cocaine in 1978 or whatever. And then it worked. It became a phenomenon. And now that's just how the work schedule is there. But that's fucking crazy. And there's a lot, and there's a lot of like showrunner types and stuff in Hollywood that like will just keep people there forever all day. Cause it's always like, oh, it can always be better. We can always beat that joke, or it still isn't good enough. And I just think that all that's crazy. I think you can do it. You can come in at 9 and leave at 5 or whatever and still make a great show. I don't think that people get better or funnier
when they're exhausted,
when they're tired as fuck and they've been in the same room for 12. I think it makes people worse.
Yeah.
But it's just people just, you know, they get locked into these like philosophies or whatever. And also, I don't know how you feel about it, but when they say like, because I know a lot of the people that are like that, their opinion is, or their philosophy is, isn't good enough yet. This can always be better. That joke that we came up with, we can beat that. I know that sometimes that's true, but I think that because we're talking about funny people here, I think sometimes the first joke you come up with is the best one.
Right.
Because that's why you thought of that one to begin with, you know? And sometimes you're like, nah, there's a better thing there, and that's fine. But like, not always. Like sometimes, sometimes also, you fucking crack it, you know?
Well, and also not only that, but it's, that mentality is also like, this is the way my daddy did it and my granddaddy did it. So that's the way that I do it, which also seems ignorant.
Exactly. No, yeah.
And it's already been like proven through like psychological research that when you're exhausted, you're not operating the bed. You need people need breaks to walk, you know, you have to walk away from it to come back to see what's wrong with it. If you just stay in it, I mean, that's already been like, that's not a good way to be productive. So, and also if you're not providing cocaine for these people to stay up all night, get the fuck out of here.
That's another pet peeve, man, is
people who don't share their blow.
Yeah, well, just Hollywood and cocaine and all that shit in general. It's like, you know, it's like it has been nothing at all like what I expected. Like as a kid, what do you know what I mean? All the fucking like the, you know, mountains of cocaine and fucking nightclubs and glitz and glamour. It's real fucking corporate-y and like I mean, in like the TV world and shit and everything. I mean, you know what I mean? It's all the real corporate America vibe. It's not like, you know, a fucking party all the time or anything. And I wouldn't want to party all the time.
No.
But
there should be part like
a little cocaine here and there.
I feel like because everybody that did all that cocaine is all sober.
Oh, that was sober. Yeah,
this is the most sober city I've ever been.
That's so true. And like comedy, and also in general, like that's a pet peeve of mine. That's definitely unpopular or will be unpopular. Is that it annoys me, and I don't know where you're at on this. Probably against me, and that's fine. Most people are. It annoys me how every fucking comedian has just stopped drinking. I was always like, I thought one of the coolest parts about it or funnest part, like
that you could drink at work. Yeah. So wild.
Drink at work. And also, and then after if your policy is like, I don't have anything to drink before my set, that's fine. But like hanging out at the club and shit, and it's like nobody's fucking drinking. People don't even really hardly hang out anymore. I feel like people just like show up and fucking leave. Well, that's a bigger
problem. I feel like that's like, especially post-pandemic, there's like,
I feel like they're tied together. I feel like if people were still having a drink and shit, they would hang out more, and maybe
it was a big point of our socialization. But I think that you could still have the connection part with, if you don't like, you know, I think look, a lot of it is the research that's come out of how bad alcohol actually is for us, and you know, it's tied to Alzheimer's, all this other shit. So I feel like a younger generation, especially out here where everyone's quote unquote California sober, you could still do the weed or whatever and still go out and not crash your car or, you know, fuck somebody's wife or something. It's harder for you to make those kind of large swapping mistakes
on weed.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard.
I can't leave the fucking house. I mean, me personally, I can't get out of bed.
Right.
Specifically the fetal position in bed. Actively terrified the entire time. But that's just me.
Right.
I cannot imagine hanging out at like a comedy club while high, or just literally being anywhere in the world other than alone at my house.
A cocoon or a warm bath.
Yeah. Yes.
Just recreating the womb. That's like the best place. But I feel, but I, as a person, experience it very differently.
Yeah,
so I go on stage high. I do stand, like I do a lot of things with it, and it doesn't bother me. But I also still don't. I'm not an alcoholic, so I can also drink and enjoy. Like there is something to be said about. I always call it the two cocktail effect, where it's just enough to lower inhibitions, and where you're the most socially cool version of yourself.
Social lubricant.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's it. That's what I like. That's what I do.
Right.
Is that like being drunk? Not even like, it's not just that the hangovers got so bad as I was getting older.
Sure.
I mean, they did.
Yeah.
But it ain't just that. It's that the drunk part of being drunk, like the night itself, like, because, you know, in my 20s, I mean, I used to get fucking hammered. Right.
Well, I think there's a generation of people after us that are not doing that.
That's true. They're not. I mean, it's like proven that they're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I stopped. So I don't get, I'm talking about, 2 cocktail effect. Have a couple drinks, loosen up. That's all I'm talking about. But it's like.
That's how people were managing anxiety before they were put on fucking
100%.
medication. That was it. Is we
100%.
just had 2 drinks and then you could be socially accept. You could have a conversation without being freaked out that you're going to say something.
Right.
You could say.
Still works, by the way, just so people know. Just saying. The efficacy is still there.
It is.
It's just people just don't utilize it anymore. But I'm saying, I feel like it's just the whole thing now where it's like, well, even it's like, let's just have a couple drinks and hang out. We're not going hard. We're not getting hammered. We're not partying. It's like, but people don't, and I get if you're literally sober, you're an addict or an alcoholic, I understand you cannot do that. But I'm saying people are not doing that like on the way. Like they don't ever they just don't do it, period.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't know. I just find that a little bit lame personally. Like it's also, I do feel judged also that it's like.
Oh, because you do drink? Why?
I feel like.
Where do you think this judgment's coming from?
Well, when I'm in a whole room of other comics and literally nobody's doing it. And even if no one says anything or whatever, I feel weird being the only one in there with a beer or whatever.
Well, that's why it's so tied to socialization. That's why so many people who are sober, I can't go to a bar.
Right.
Because it's weird for me to be the only one not drinking or so, those kinds of concerns. And it's just like, you could still have the conversations. Or do you think because they're not lubed up, so to speak, that there's maybe a uncomfortableness with people being so comfortable because you don't feel that way, because you're having to sit in your feelings or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like it's both things. I feel like, but again, it's because I know the difference between doing something in excess is, I feel like a lot of people, especially like because neurodivergent people have been self-medicating with alcohol for years, nicotine, weed, all of those things. So now that they're all put on speed and all this other shit, or Wellbutrin, or all of these meds, it's just pharma got us, dog.
Yeah, right.
I think it's big pharma's fault that nobody's having a fucking cocktail.
Well, you would think big booze would have fought back a little harder. I mean, they had the fucking, I know big pharma, like, is fucking swinging a big stick, but I feel like alcohol could have went round for round with them. I'm talking about, lobbying and culture and stuff.
But they don't have the money big pharma does.
Yeah,
that's
I guess
small
not.
fish in comparison, especially, I mean, I think that was maybe the adverse effect of weed being more accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean,
it hit booze a
it
little
definitely
bit.
did, and people always said that was one of the upsides to a lot of people of weed before it was more accessible. Like that's a reason we should make it more accessible, is because it's better than. And again, I know, yes, when
but
it's
I'm also
bad,
a person that crossfades. I'm also a person that has 2 cocktails and a 1-hitter, and you're getting the most confident version of me.
Yeah,
that way.
Yeah, no, I just again, I know that. That's another pet peeve. It's my most libertarian thing that I have, I think, is I'm a big believer in like personal responsibility. So
accountability.
Pet peeve is like, for example, this fucking state, California, like just as a recent example, they made, and people did vote on it, but it should never even been on the fucking ballot, in my opinion. They made like flavored vapes illegal, right? Because kids are getting hooked on them or whatever, and that's bad. And my whole thing is like, who gives a fuck? Like what's that got to do with me? Like my responsibility is to keep my kids from getting on it, right? But like I'm a grown man. Like if I want to buy a fucking, mango ice Fruit Loops vape, I should be allowed to. I pay my fucking taxes. This is America. Like this is bullshit.
Menthol, and I was like, what kid is huffing the menthol one? That's definitely that seems real. Like fuck you, people of color. Because that's where mint is big. Is in those communities.
Yes, absolutely. But I just don't. It's like there's that. I think it's about censorship. It's one of those quotes that everybody always attributes to Mark Twain, but I don't know if he actually said it or not. It might be apocryphal, but it's like, I think it's censorship. Censorship is telling a man that he cannot enjoy a steak because a baby is unable to chew it. Right. And it's like, that's just how I feel about all that. It's like it's personal responsibility and parental responsibility. If kids are getting all fucked up on it, that's their parents' fault. And I know a lot of people got shithead parents. I had at least one,
right?
And I know I understand that it still ain't a me thing, you know. Like so, I don't like that type of thing, and this is related to alcohol because that's how I feel about. I know that it can be very, very bad. I know it ruins people's lives. I get that, but not mine. Like I'm not like that. I don't have it that way. I'm very, very, very in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
but I would like to do it with other people.
Yes,
God damn it.
Yes, exactly.
That is the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was like, because that was the shift. Is I was always a social drinker. I used to have this silly joke where I would say I only drink as much as whoever I'm with drinks.
Yes.
So it's a nightmare when you're hanging out with alcoholics because God damn it, I have to prepare for it. But at the same time, it's like I have booze I don't drink because I don't drink by myself. And there's not like it happened maybe not that long ago, probably like a month ago, somebody filmed a thing, and then afterward we went to a bar afterwards, and then it was just like, man, I remember this. This seems like a revisit of an era that is no longer here.
That's exactly what it feels like now.
Yeah,
I know. I miss that era.
You need to hang out at the Comedy Store more. There is that's still there.
Yeah.
So it's just but I also I get that it ruins, and I'm not encouraging people to do any of that by any means if it's but at the same time if it's not, I don't see why you can't.
If it's not, you don't see why
if it's not ruining your life, I don't see why you can't do it.
Right. Yeah, right. Yes, that's all I'm saying. But I feel like also there's this sort of perception, or it's treated like me and Corey and Drew talked about all this, and Drew was saying he thought that part of it was because, at least in part, because of all the people, all the legendary over the years, people in comedy that, were animals and then fucking died early and stuff. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows about Belushi and Farley and all that type of thing. But my whole thing with that is like, okay, but there's a huge spectrum, a gulf between like like not doing it at all and being fucking John Belushi.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like you can, like, again, I ain't out here fucking nobody's wife, cheating on mine, breaking laws, getting in fights, waking up in gutters. I'm not doing none of that shit.
But I am laughing at my friends as we like one up each other on a silly story. Sure.
And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And it feels like it's becoming less so, like socially. Mm-hmm. And that's a pet peeve about it. I don't like that.
Here's my I'll give you my conspiratorial take on this. I think it is the younger generation's way of being rebellious. When this society is telling them to eat plastic, to not take care of themselves, to their way of being like, fuck you to corporate greed is to be like, okay, well then we don't partake in that. We all are trying to spend all of our money buying food that's not poison, take care of ourselves, be healthy, read. That's like a bit of news that people are reading again,
Gay.
Exactly.
No.
I know.
Reading's great.
But I think it's a rebellion to that. And I think ours was that you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to party as much as I want to. You're not, because it was way more conservative for most of our lives. Mm-hmm. And now it's not party, it's class, way more so, and more overt. I think it's a way for young people. That's why they're only doing what their friends on TikTok are doing. They're only doing those things. They're only being influenced by each other because society is gnarly.
It is. Indeed,
so I think that's what it is there's none of them that are like, oh yeah, my dad's a drunk, I love it. It's also we're also the only ones doing it. Yeah. So then it's also an old thing.
Yep. That's definitely true. That's never cool.
Exactly.
You never want to do old people things.
But to young people, if there are any listening, there is something to be said about it being able to help you a little bit with most of the people I knew who were undiagnosed, neurodivergent, anxiety before everybody was going to fucking therapy. And that, I think part of it is that too. A part of it with the large swathing amount of people who are going to therapy. It's always like, oh, you're doing, if you were taking alcohol at all, it was always to not deal with something.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be that.
Right.
I think a lot of therapists are framing it that way to get people to not self-medicate, and instead they can take the SSRIs, they can take the fucking antidepressants, they can take all the shit they're pushing. Outside of that, you can just have a cocktail with a friend and catch up, and it's delightful.
Yeah. Thank
it doesn't have to be that.
I know. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So I don't know. So, but I think there's like a few things societally, a way to say fuck you. You're not going to be able to manipulate me. And also with the amount, I mean, everybody's kids I know are in therapy, whether there is anything wrong with them or not, whether they had any kind of trauma or not, because their parents didn't have therapy and they needed it. So now they're like, well, my kid's going to have it. And it's like, okay, but you needed therapy because something awful happened to you, or you were raised in a way that affected you negatively. Whereas if there's nothing bad that's happening to them, I don't know really what the purpose of it is.
Yeah, no, I mean, our kids are not in therapy because, I mean, they're doing fine. I mean, they're 12 and 13. I feel like, God knows what's coming in the next, few years.
Yeah.
But so far, it's been all good, and we haven't. And also, to be honest, so like I've been in therapy and shit. I'm not currently, but I have been. I mean, I have a psychology degree. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But like,
same. That's all. I have a psych degree too. Same.
But the truth is, and she would not openly admit this, but my wife, she's still got some like fucking small town redneck white trash sensibilities to her in certain ways, and I'm pretty goddamn sure that one of them is, I think deep down she don't really believe in therapy. Really.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying she would never say that, but I think she just doesn't. I don't think she thinks that it works or does anything. I think she kind of thinks it's all bullshit. And I know that it isn't, but I'm saying that's their mother. And she's just not, because I've brought it up before just because of what you're saying. It's like, oh, what do you think? Whatever. And she always kind of just plays it off. But I've just gotten the distinct impression. I think that, again, deep down, I think she's like, it's pointless. And again, I think she's wrong. I'm just saying she's also kind of in charge. So.
Well, I do think there is something. I mean, there's plenty to be said. I mean, I have plenty of criticism of the industry because, again, is there, especially even for me, knowing everything that's wrong and because I'm the kind of nerd that I am, learning. I used to watch seminars on how they teach therapists how to do therapy and stuff. Like, so I was ahead on the 5 love languages. I was all of this stuff that, the attachment style. I was in on that when they were doing it in early child development. And then it's been widespread to adults and everything. So I knew about all that shit and I liked all of that stuff. The only thing is a lot of times people will get in a situation where they're in therapy and you're just identifying things, which is fine. But then what is the point of if you're not being given the tools for you to overcome whatever mental adversity that you have? And then there's no getting better. Then it's just, I'm perpetually giving you 100 to whatever much money a week for me to come here and be like, well, still got sad this week. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no, when it comes to talk therapy, and I'm obviously talking about psychology and not psychiatry, where if you have a mental chemical, just like my dad's bipolar, like he needs to be on something. But then having that said, I've also seen them use my dad as a fucking guinea pig to try a bunch of drugs out. And I don't like any of that. There's plenty of the industry where your wife is right and it's bullshit. Yeah. But there is something to be said, especially when you have an entire multiple generations of people repressing things, you having someone sit down that you're paying to listen to you, that is not your friends, that is not there to judge you, that is just there to listen to you, saying all of those things out loud, a lot of time, it's a release valve.
Yeah.
And it's very useful.
No, it definitely, yes, that part of it definitely does help for sure. It is nice to, again, fucking Southern man and everything, every preceding generation before mine is like, you just, we don't talk about shit.
Right.
You know
they would go to a bar and drink.
Right. So. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then have a tacit agreement that nobody talks about shit. Yep. We all just pretend you just drink and, you can bitch about your wife. That's about it. But like feelings, no. But like, it does help to talk about that stuff. Speaking of my wife and kids, I got to pick my kids up from school in a little bit. Okay. I didn't know where we're at right now. Oh, no,
you're good.
Okay.
Plug stuff. Tell people where to find you.
Thank you. I'm so glad I'm so bad about that. Thanks for reminding me, because I have a new special out on YouTube called Trash Daddy. So yeah, if you just go, search for it on YouTube. It's on 800 Pound Gorilla's YouTube channel, but if you just search for Trash Daddy, Trae Crowder, you should find it. I'm also always on tour. I'm always on the road, and that's at TraeCrowder.com.
Follow me. TRAE.
Thank you.
TROWDER.com. And naturally you have the Well Read podcast with Drew from Gravy Baby, and with the Buttercream Dream. I was trying to get Buttercream Dream.
Yes. So check that out too. Yeah, and it's just Trae Crowder on all the socials. But thank you for having me. I love you. It's good to see you.
Too. Thanks for coming on here and us talking about stuff we don't like.
I'll take any opportunity to bitch about anything. My whole deal.
I love it.
Right.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. Patreon.com/NoSirPod. Make sure you're following, sharing little clippies, telling people about us. I love you and appreciate you. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.
No, sir, I don't like it.